Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something really special.
We are.
Listeners shared some pretty fascinating personal material with us. It's excerpts from their own account of applying to the NASA astronaut program way back in the mid-1990s. So think of this as like your backstage pass, understanding the realities, chasing that ultimate dream. And it's straight from someone who actually lived it.
Exactly. We've got chapter 11 of this unpublished story right here. And our mission today, well, it's to go beyond just recounting the events.
Right.
We want to really unpack the complexities behind it, the motivations, and, get some broader insights into what it actually takes to pursue a goal like that, especially back then.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's early 1995. Our applicant, he's a busy test pilot. Yeah. Flying some incredible machines, F-14 Tomcats, FA-18 Hornets.
Top stuff.
And he's at his test squadron, and he happens to notice a colleague filling out an application for the astronaut program. And apparently it was this massive stack of paper.
Yeah, like a phone book.
What really struck me reading this was the applicant's initial surprise.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because even though being an astronaut was like a long-held dream for him, he kind of mentally shelved it, put it off into the future. He was 31, didn't have a master's degree yet.
Right.
So he had already set up these perceived limitations in his own mind. It really makes you wonder how often we kind of self-select out of things, doesn't it?
Totally. Based on what we think is required. And seeing the sheer size of his colleague's application, that seems to have been a real catalyst.
It does. It's almost like seeing that physical effort, that stack of paper, made the whole idea feel more real, tangible.
Yeah, and it prompted a completely different approach from him.
It really highlights the different ways people tackle these huge challenges. The colleague went for, comprehensive, looked like he included every single detail.
Everything but the kitchen sink.
Pretty much. Whereas our applicant, he opted for a much more minimalist, concise strategy, focused on what he thought was most impactful, maybe a strategic choice too.
Well, the deadline was definitely a factor. He mentions that.
Okay.
But I found his rationale just fascinating. Basically, why not apply and be rejected?
Yeah.
It's surprisingly pragmatic almost. Fearless, maybe, to approach something so huge that way. What do you make of that mindset?
I think it's a really powerful way to reframe failure, or potential failure anyway, instead of seeing rejection as like this definitive endpoint.
Yeah, the door slamming shut.
Exactly. He saw it as a low-cost way to learn, to gain insight into this super selective process. It speaks to a certain resilience, I think, a focus on learning whatever the outcome.
Okay, so he sends it off. Minimalist application. Then months pass. The waiting game begins.
The long wait.
And the colleague, the one with the massive application, he gets an interview pretty early on.
Which, conventionally, that would signal he's a strong contender.
Right, which probably reinforced our applicant's initial feeling that his own chances were, well, pretty slim. You can almost feel that sense of quiet resignation in the writing.
Yeah, like, okay, well, I tried.
But then he's having dinner with a friend, a guy named Mark. And there's a bit of a curveball.
Indeed. Mark just casually mentions he also got an interview invitation from NASA.
And our applicant, in his typically understated way, doesn't even say he applied to.
It's a moment that's just, full of unspoken stuff, maybe a little tension, a bit of disappointment, perhaps.
Could be. But then comes this act of generosity. Really unexpected.
Right. Mark needs a suit for his interview.
Doesn't have one.
Doesn't have one. Asks to borrow one from our applicant, who'd apparently just bought one.
Yeah.
Seems like a small thing, right? A borrowed suit. But it's this little thread that actually weaves its way back into the story later, quite surprisingly.
It's funny how those little details work out. So fast forward several more months. Our applicant gets back to the office after a test flight. And there's some unexpected news waiting. A missed call from Teresa Gomez at NASA.
Ah, Teresa Gomez. Now, for anyone in the flight test world back then, that name carried some serious weight.
So what does that signify? Her calling directly.
It suggests that, despite his own assessment of his chances.
His low odds.
Yeah. He was definitely a serious contender for an interview slot, too.
Yeah.
Her reaching out personally wasn't just routine.
Wow. And the timeline was tight. Just a couple of weeks between that call and the interview, not much time to prepare.
It really underscores how unpredictable these things can be. You think you're out, then suddenly, boom, you're in.
And the reaction from his community, his peers, is really telling. Mark, the friend who borrowed the suit.
Yeah.
He'd already done his interview.
Yeah.
And he generously shares all the details, the inside scoop, with our applicant.
That camaraderie is really striking, isn't it?
Is.
Mark and another pilot, Dave Brown, who later became an astronaut himself, tragically lost on Columbia.
Right.
They actually set up mock interview sessions. They even filmed them to give feedback.
Yeah, he mentions the feedback like lean forward more, be more animated.
Yeah, it's like they're all genuinely invested in each other's success, even though they're technically competing for the same spots.
What does that tell you about that particular group, that culture?
I think it suggests a really strong sense of shared identity, a shared purpose. They're all part of this elite group chasing something extraordinary, and that willingness to help each other navigate this incredibly intense process, it speaks volumes about their character, maybe a belief that, hey, the best people should get through, whoever they are.
And the borrowed suit. It makes another appearance?
Oh, yeah.
Our applicant jokingly tells Mark he owes him a new suit, playing on the fact that, oh yeah, they're identical twins.
The twin factor, right.
And the thought of both of them potentially showing up to the interview board wearing the exact same borrowed suit, it's actually pretty funny.
It definitely injects a bit of humor into what must have been a super high-pressure situation, and it subtly flags up this unique part of his story, doesn't it?
It does. So, okay, December arrives. There were government shutdowns causing delays.
Right, fall of '95. That was messy.
But he finally navigates that uncertainty and makes his way to Houston for the interview week. He stays at the King's Inn. What's the deal with that place?
The King's Inn. Yeah, it has this real history in the astronaut applicant world. It's kind of legendary. It's where tons of hopefuls stayed over the years. So staying there created this almost shared experience, you know, a sense of being in the same boat or maybe the same rocket with all these other people chasing the same dream.
Must have been interesting meeting the other applicants, the AERSOs as they call them, astronaut hopefuls.
Yeah, even the turn itself, you can hear the careful pronunciation in the writing. It's like this badge of honor signifying their shared ambition.
A mix of competition and maybe future colleagues.
Exactly. And that week in Houston sounds like an absolute gauntlet. It wasn't just the interviews.
No.
There were written tests, assessing different skills, and then the medical evaluations, which sound incredibly thorough.
Oh, the medicals.
Yeah.
They really underscore the level of, well, physical perfection NASA was looking for.
Yeah.
The examples he gives of seemingly minor things that could get you disqualified, kidney stones, a past heart murmur, it just hammers home that these people needed to be in absolutely peak condition.
Yeah, and low risk. The detail about gallstones versus no gallbladder was fascinating.
Why that distinction?
Well, it highlights the practical side of long-duration spaceflight, right? An acute gallbladder attack in orbit, that's a serious medical emergency.
Oh, okay.
Whereas if you've already had it removed preemptively, that specific risk is gone.
Makes sense. The anxiety around those tests must have been huge, especially since so much of it is out of your control.
Totally. Your body is what it is to some extent.
And our applicants attempt to get into even better shape by, like, overdoing the running.
Yeah. Put a hat.
It actually triggered heart palpitation, pasines, premature atrial contractions.
Oh,
ironic, right? Trying too hard creates a potential problem.
Wow. Did that cause issues?
Well, Dave Brown's medical insight apparently helped calm him down a bit. But the possibility of it being disqualifying was still hanging over him.
You bet.
He had to wear a Holter monitor, constantly aware of his heart-skipping beats. Must have been incredibly distracting and stressful.
Oh, absolutely. Just constant awareness.
And then there's this conversation with the NASA flight surgeon, Smith Johnston. His reassurance, while, measured, it offered a bit of a human touch in this very clinical high-stakes process.
Right.
And the mention of his unusually low cholesterol.
From his intense diet, right.
Yeah, likely from his crazy diet and exercise. It's another one of those memorable details showing his absolute dedication.
It really paints a picture of someone just completely all in, leaving no stone unturned. And then we get to what might be the most vividly described part of the whole account.
Oh, boy. The proctosigmoidoscopy.
Without anesthesia.
Yeah. What stood out to you about that, beyond the obvious discomfort?
Well, the sheer vulnerability of it, the total lack of control, and then having to immediately switch gears, put on a brave face, and go on a public tour of Space Center Houston right after.
Right. It almost makes you wonder, were these intense, sometimes uncomfortable procedures also a subtle form of psychological testing?
That's a really fascinating point. Like, how do they handle awkwardness, embarrassment, physical discomfort while still needing to function?
Because in space, you're in confined quarters under stress. You need to maintain composure no matter what.
Exactly. So maybe this experience, however unpleasant, inadvertently gave the selectors some insight into that ability. The phrase he uses, physical humiliations, is pretty powerful.
He really is. Okay, so he survives that. Then comes the main event, the interview with the astronaut selection board itself.
The big one.
Waiting outside while Dwayne Ross reads his application essay.
He describes this internal struggle, about being authentic versus trying to say what he thought they wanted to hear. Especially with that anecdote about a family trip to Kennedy Space Center when he was a kid. Felt like a cliche, maybe. Yeah, that resonates, doesn't it? It's the classic dilemma in any high-stakes interview. How do you balance genuine personal stuff with demonstrating the specific qualities they're looking for?
And the panel itself. You look at the names. John Young, Bob Cabana, Jim Weatherby, Ellen Baker. These are legends. It must have been incredibly intimidating walking into that room.
Absolutely terrifying, I imagine. Icons of spaceflight staring back at you.
But he starts off with that little bit of self-deprecating humor about the borrowed suit again.
Does he really?
Yeah. And apparently it landed well, kind of broke the ice.
Nice move.
And John Young hits him with this completely unexpected opening question. Not about flying, not about engineering, but tell us about your life, and then steers him back to junior high.
Wow. Okay. What do you think the purpose of that was? Go back that far.
Well, it's likely designed to see how he thinks on his feet, right?
Yeah.
What does he choose to highlight from his personal history? How does he build a narrative about himself that goes beyond just the test pilot resume?
And his decision, strategically, to focus on experiences outside test piloting, fixing boats, working as an EMT, getting his merchant marine license.
Right, showing breadth.
Exactly. It shows an understanding that they're looking for well-rounded people, not just stick-and-rudder guys. Diverse skills, different experiences.
And he was ready for the tactical stuff, too. Young apparently asked him a detailed question about the F-14's flight control system.
And he nailed it.
Sounds like he had a prepared answer ready to go.
Yeah.
Showcased his expertise. So overall, he felt pretty positive coming out of it. Just a minor worry about one interviewer, Ellen Baker, maybe looking tired.
It highlights that you need both, don't you? The deep technical knowledge and the ability to communicate, connect, read the room.
For sure. Then came the psychological testing phase. And he mentions the temptation to, game the system, try to give the correct answers.
Ah, yes, the psych tests. Always tricky.
And it almost backfired. That question he mentions about whether it's worse to steal something small or needlessly harm an animal.
A classic ethical dilemma type.
The feedback he got later was that he almost failed that part because he was clearly trying too hard to give the right answers, not just his genuine response.
That's a crucial insight, isn't it? They're not looking for perfect scores on a test. They're looking for genuine responses that reveal your actual character, your values, how you handle pressure.
They want to see the real you, warts and all, basically.
Exactly. They need to know who they're sending up there. Psychological resilience, suitability for those unique pressures. That's key.
And the claustrophobia test. Being zipped into a bag and left alone in a closet.
Yikes. How did he handle that?
He just took a nap?
He took a nap. Seriously.
Apparently. Which is certainly an unexpected reaction. Maybe suggests a remarkable level of composure. Or just exhaustion after that week.
Could be both. An ability to adapt, maybe. Then you have that whole subtle dance of social navigation he describes.
Yeah, like briefly meeting an astronaut in the astronaut office. Trying not to seem too eager or awkward.
Right. And the detailed thought that went into the casual dinner at PT's barbecue.
What to wear, what to drink.
Exactly. How to interact with astronauts in a relaxed setting. It's like every single interaction, no matter how small or informal, is potentially part of the evaluation.
It really underscores how holistic the whole process is. They're looking at the whole person skills, qualifications, yes, but also your interpersonal skills, how you carry yourself.
How you fit.
So the weekends, he goes home. And then begins the really long, anxious wait.
The post-interview purgatory.
And he gets a new Navy assignment to Japan, which creates this weird kind of bittersweet anticipation. Packing up his life.
Right, moving the family. Huge upheaval.
And the moving company keeps delaying the shipment, which almost seems to amplify the suspense he's feeling about the NASA decision.
Oh, man, that must have been torture. Waiting on two huge life things at once.
But then, a positive sign. His references start getting contacted for the background investigation.
Okay, that's usually a good indicator. Things are moving forward.
Yeah, a glimmer of hope. But still, tons of uncertainty, especially being the third interview group out of, I think, 4.
Right. Still not a guarantee. That whole period must just be incredibly emotionally taxing. You've done all you can. The interview felt good, but now it's completely out of your hands.
And you've got this other major career path potentially opening up with the Japan assignment, a real dilemma. And finally, the life-altering phone call.
A moment of truth.
From Dave Leesma, the flight crew operations director at NASA. But the initial offer is almost weirdly understated.
Yes.
Leesma just says something like, "Would you like to come fly for us?"
Just like that. Casual.
And our applicant's response is just perfect. Fly what? Like, fly what? A desk, the simulator. Almost minimizing the enormity of it.
That initial ambiguity makes the confirmation even more powerful, I bet, when Leesma clarifies, fly the shuttle.
Yeah, the realization hitting him. Achieving this goal that seemed so impossible for so long. The overwhelming emotion he describes. It's just a truly pivotal, life-changing moment.
You can almost feel it through the writing. Decades of dreaming culminating in that one phone call.
And his very first thought, after confirming it's real,
what was it?
His twin brother. He immediately asks Leesma if his brother got selected too.
Wow. That speaks volumes about their connection, doesn't it?
It really does. And the answer...
Don't tell me.
Yes, both of them. Selected in the same class. A first for NASA.
Get out. Both identical twins. Selected simultaneously. That is incredible. Almost unbelievable.
Totally unbelievable twist. Sharing that news then with his wife, his brother, obviously, parents, colleagues, the outpouring of excitement and support.
Must have been amazing.
And there's this wonderful little anecdote about his grandmother immediately getting a bumper sticker made.
Oh, that's brilliant. What did it say?
"My grandson is an astronaut."
Love it. Just pure pride.
And Dwayne Ross's response to the press later when asked about selecting twins.
Yeah. How did NASA frame it?
He was very careful. Emphasized they'd selected two highly accomplished, outstanding test pilots who just happened to be twins, reinforcing that it was purely merit-based.
As it should be. But what a story.
So reflecting on this whole deep dive then, this journey through the astronaut application process back in the mid-90s, wow.
Yeah.
It's clear it was this incredibly demanding journey, wasn't it? Filled with just rigorous evaluations, unexpected twists, definite psychological hurdles, but also moments of real camaraderie.
Absolutely. It required not just, exceptional qualifications on paper, but real resilience, adaptability, navigating social situations, and maybe just a little bit of luck or serendipity, too.
For sure. And certain details just really stand out, don't they? They illuminate the whole experience.
Like the contrast in those application strategies at the start.
Yeah, the minimalist versus the maximalist. And the ongoing saga of the borrowed suit.
The suit. And you definitely can't forget the proctosigmoidoscopy experience.
Yeah, probably not. Or the strategic social maneuvering at the barbecue.
Right. Every little thing mattered.
And of course, the truly remarkable outcome, both twins getting chosen together.
It's just incredible. Hopefully this exploration, this dive into the source, has given you, our listener, a really clear and an insightful understanding of this extraordinary pursuit.
Yeah, we hope maybe you had some of those aha moments,
Yeah.
Gaining some knowledge quickly, thoroughly, but without feeling totally overwhelmed by all the details. So to wrap up, here's a final thought for you to maybe ponder. Considering the intense scrutiny, the multifaceted challenges that these astronaut applicants faced, what seemingly insurmountable goals do you have in your own life?
Big question.
What small, maybe even slightly uncomfortable initial step could you take? Maybe even today, even though you might face setbacks or rejection. What could you do just to learn and maybe inch just a little